Okay, yeah, right, I can ask them. Dear students, good morning. This is our first session related to ethics, integrity, and aptitude. So, can you hear me? If you can hear me, then you can just type in the comment section. I will be able to understand that we all are connected and we are able to discuss and start. Good morning, all of you. I can see your messages. Oh, great. So, as per the fact that you all can hear me, then let me start. It's so warm and nice to see all of you logging in. And then, okay, so this is our first session related to ethics, integrity, and aptitude. So, I would like to first start with a very basic thing, that is the syllabus and how to go about with it. Okay. So let us start with this very segment. So all of you can, over here, I've just started with the syllabus. You all can see the syllabus of ethics. Here in the syllabus, as all of you can take a note, the segments which are discussed, you can see there is this first topic, ethics and human interface. It is having various segments in it. You can see there are subcomponents like essence, determinants, consequences of ethics in human actions. Then you can see again another dimension, dimensions, then ethics in private and public relations. Then you can see human values. In human values, there is this very interesting component. It's saying that lessons from the lives and teaching of great leaders, reformers, and administrators. Now, just remember this subcomponent. You'll see an echo of this subcomponent in another chapter as well. Okay. So, over here, as all of us can take a note, you can also see it's given that uh, there's this role of family. So it's just not talking about human values, it's also talking about who is shaping the possibility of values. It's not just the great leaders or reformers or administrators, but also your family, the society, the educational institutions in inculcating values. Further, we all can see that the second subtopic, which is discussing about the possibility of attitude. So this is the second subtopic given in your syllabus. Again, attitude has various subcomponents. It's talking about content, structure, function associated with the word attitude. See here, I'm first making you habituated to the key terms related to the syllabus. It will barely take 2 to 3 minutes, but you will get an idea that, okay, this is what we have to deal with in the near future. So I will first give you an insight that, look, these are the topics, this is how they are interrelated, and this is how we are going to unfold the possibilities. So you can see in attitude, it's talking about content, structure, function, and these segments are related to the attitude itself. So what is the content of attitude? What do we mean by the word attitude? What is the structure of an attitude? Can we have a structure of human attitude? Attitude means inclination towards things. I'll get into the detail of these key terms. Meanwhile, we can see it's saying that its influence in relation with thought and behavior, moral and political attitudes. So who is influencing these attitudes? How is this attitude associated with what is your thought? As in, your thought is not only what you're thinking presently, but what you have been thinking and shaping yourself with a collection of ideas over the time period. It can be also associated with your history. It can be associated with the parenting, the socialization, the educational institutions, everything that has shaped this thought. Okay, so thought and behavior, all of it is shaping the attitude. How is it shaping? Then there is moral and political attitudes. So there are two more subsegments to the attitude, that is the moral and the political aspect. Then the social influence and persuasion. Okay, and then after social influence and persuasion, how they are shaping your attitude. When I say social influence, how social influence shapes our attitude. So we can see, because you have heard in the society that being an IAS officer or being a bureaucrat is a glorious thing. You can shape the society. It's a prestigious job. So your attitude towards civil services is quite high. You're like, wow, this is a great job. But if I say manual scavenging, or if I say cleaning the roads, so that's also a great service to the nation. You're making the society clean, you're making it livable. But because the attitude towards the job, the social attitude, the social perception towards that physical job is not so high in terms of the respect endowed to those individuals, and also the salary that is endowed to them, because of which what happens, we can see that the very idea of attitude in terms of social influence, the how society is influencing you, okay, is quite low. So no one aspires as a student to become, most of the times, to become, like, let us say, a cleaner. We have Bindeshwari Pathak, who actually shaped the idea of cleaning, right? We have all these Sulabh Shauchalaya across India, and Sulabh International has got various awards, not only in India but across the world. So social influence plays a very critical role initially in shaping your attitude, and your attitude then further determines your choices. Anyway, I'll get into this topic as well in greater detail, because here I'm just giving a brief insight and idea, okay, this is the topic and this is what it would be probably dealing with. Similarly, persuasion. You said to your father, oh, I love English literature. Or maybe you said, I love geography and I want to study this discipline in future. And your father is like, oh, what will you do doing like geography? Won't it be better if you like probably study something like science? Because with science, you can first do your BTech or maybe MBBS, and you can first secure your future at least on one front. Then after that, be whatever you want to be. So they, like, you know, just cajole you, or you can say they can coax you, they can persuade you into the possibility that what is your inner call. So you're like, oh yeah, I like maths also and physics also, so maybe I can just drop geography meanwhile. So you're like, you know, persuasion, it also shapes your attitudes. So it can be parents who are getting into that persuasion mode, it can be political leaders, social thinkers, local leaders, anyone. Anyway, so attitude is what? It is inclination towards something, something which we really like to do, or something which we have an interest to do. And this inclination can be associated with a good or any goods. It can be associated with an individual, it can be associated with a situation, it can be associated with a specific literature or a book, anything, any discipline, okay? So it can be a material aspect or a material object, or it can be a non-material object, means some abstract emotion, abstract feeling, okay? So for example, right now I said that you have an attitude towards a discipline, a subject. So a discipline or a subject is more abstract, right? And if I love ice cream, so it is something more material. So loving ice cream, my attitude towards ice cream is positive, right? So this is a material aspect. Anyway, we'll get into the chapter of attitude later with greater details. I'll be explaining that as well. Then you can see over here another sub chapter, that is aptitude and foundational values for civil services, right? So this very segment of aptitude, as you can see, aptitude is what? It is an inbuilt, I would say, talent that you have. It's by birth. You know, there's some qualities that you have by birth. Like, for example, Sachin Tendulkar, he was good at sports by birth. And the thing in which you have your true aptitude, if in that your attitude is encouraged, okay? Suppose you have great bureaucratic skills in your personality, and those skills are further enhanced by making you interested in that domain. Then your capability to perform, your capability to, like, let us say, excel in that domain will be greater. So aptitude is the inbuilt talent, inbuilt quality. But along with this aptitude, you also need training and skill building. For example, we all know Sachin Tendulkar and Vinod Kambli. They were great players, isn't it? Right? And they have excelled and they have made a mark. But Vinod Kambli could not push that far, and Sachin could. So was there a difference in the aptitude? Well, many people say Vinod Kambli was far more talented and he was a greater player than Sachin. he was given a lot of chances and he played, but somehow he could not perform that well. So along with aptitude means your innate skills, which you have gained naturally. For example, I'm a pathetic singer. I cannot, if I have to really scare people, or if I have to torment my siblings, okay, or my family members, I'll start singing, okay, and they'll be, oh, just shut up. So I don't have an aptitude in singing. But then there are a lot of people, in fact many of you here in the group might be having that natural aptitude for singing, like melodiously anytime you start singing anything and everyone just turns, wow, that was like too good. Aptitude, it's by birth, it can be associated with anything, okay, any skill. And when you actually pull all your, I would say, resources, and when you start working towards it, this aptitude can pull you very high in life in terms of a career, in terms of growth. I hope you're able to distinguish between these two terms, attitude and aptitude, right? Okay. Then you can see there is, in this very chapter of aptitude, you have some key terms like integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public services. Now, as we're seeing these terms, just get habituated to these terms, and you need to then reflect that the aptitude we are talking about, this is not aptitude towards dancing, singing, or sports. Here, we are preparing for civil services exam. So the aptitude here we would be talking about will be associated with the aptitude of a leader, the aptitude of a civil servant, the aptitude of a person who can really serve and stand for the society, provide leadership from the front and when required from the back. Okay, sometimes you need to support your juniors, your staff, and the entire team from the back, and they take up the lead. Have you seen how ISRO performs? You might be seeing that whenever any mission fails, the ISRO chief or the director of that project, he comes forward and he owns up the mistake. But you will see that whenever a mission is successful, there have been times when the director pushes forward all the team members and says it's because of them, and they take the lead and they announce that we have been successful in so and so mission. So that's also a brilliant way of providing leadership from the front when required, and when from the back when it is required accordingly. And that's how you become a great team leader, a great player, and you know how to, lead from the front and lead from the behind. Okay, so when you're owning up what went wrong, like a true leader, you just own up. That's what you sometimes expect from, the PM of India, or sometimes from the CM of your state, that the person owns up when things go wrong, not start the blame game. Are you getting it? Anyway, not getting into that domain, just giving you an idea that when we are talking about this idea of integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, these are some important core values which are required for a civil servant. And when these values are there, then it is considered that you are having some basic aptitude to sit for this exam, or to appear for the interview, or to qualify it. Okay, so basically foundational values. So every discussion you'll see will indirectly get associated with leadership skills, because in the end of the day, here we are to discuss the possibility that who should be the right leader for this nation. Anyway, getting back to the syllabus first, and then I'll explore the possibilities associated with it. So you can see there's dedication to public services. Then there's the word empathy. So what is the difference between empathy and compassion? Or rather, pity, sympathy, empathy, compassion, right? Are they different in degrees? Does it differ in the response or reaction we have towards fellow human beings? What should a civil servant be? Should he or she be empathetic, or should he or she be tolerant, or should he or she be compassionate? And what is the difference in the meaning of these words? So suddenly you'll realize this paper will sharpen your skills in language, your precision towards language, the way you are reading and analyzing language. My dear students, one thing that I'll inspire you is that today is my first lecture. From day one, that is my lecture or all the other teachers who would be joining in the series, try to grab like great language skills from them whoever is able to impart whatever in their own capacity. When you're reading a book, a newspaper, or an article, try to grab the best of the language possible. I'm not talking about poetic language or like, flowery language or cast up language. No, technically correct language, which term should be where used where and how. Okay, you should be capable to understand how to use language in a profound spirit, because that creates the possibility for the examiner to understand you correctly. See, what an interesting challenge this is, this UPSC exam. Till like university days, you have been writing pages and pages over one single question, one single topic, one question, and you are just going on and on. People keep asking for continuation sheet, saying that, ma'am, one for me, sir, one for me, something like that, right? And you keep asking and keep filling, and the student who's going on with sheets like, sir, 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 and other students are scandalized. What is this fellow writing? And what is this person up to, right? So the thing is, UPSC does not provide that charming situation whereby a student can just go on writing as much the person wants to know. Here there is a delimitation to word limit. It's like 150 words to 250 words. Majority of general studies questions, especially in past 4 years, I would say, has been associated with two blocks, that is 150 word question and 250 word question, whether it is GS paper 1, 2, 3 or 4. Okay, so 150 words. If you take an unruled sheet, okay, one more thing, considering that most of you are beginners who are listening to me, I'll always advise, write your answers or practice your answers, even today towards the end of this lecture, when I'll be dictating few things to you, explaining few things to you, and when you'll be taking it down, try to note it down on unruled piece of paper. Take an A4 size paper, you can just draw lines, or you get such ready-made paper in the market, and try to note down on the unruled paper. Because sometimes, I have seen students writing somewhat like this. Suppose this is an unruled paper. I've seen students like, this is the sheet, and the child will end up writing something like, I've seen like this. Okay, why? The child has not got habituated of writing in an unruled. Always the child has been writing on a ruled piece of paper. No, get rid of the habit of writing on an unruled, like on a ruled piece of paper. Then you'll realize something like, this is the answer sheet that the examiner is providing it to you. So all the four sides have been like cut out, and there's something in between. So when you're like, writing down in between the sheet, it is advisable, okay, when you write down, leave enough spacing, just try to count down. You'll find that almost 1 to 2 sheets of paper, I'm making a random sketch, okay, I'm not that great in it. So when you're writing in these sheets of paper, almost in two sides of this sheet, you end up writing 150 words. Few students who have, like, let us consider, like, let's say, students who have bigger handwriting, okay, they may end up filling 2 sheets. Students who have smaller handwriting may end up filling just 1.5 sheet, okay, for 150 words. For 250 words, you can just presume the 3 sides of a sheet to 4 sides of a sheet. That's it. So the volume of information that you grab from us, like from me or from any other teacher, maybe it can be in 1,000 words, it can be in 2,000 words, that entire information that you are grabbing, okay, it might be there that you have to write it down in just 2 sides of a paper, or maximum 4 sides of a paper. So 2 sides or 4 sides is not enough of breathing space. So for that you're understanding the question properly and you're able to express it, you need power of language, so that whatever you want to write, you're able to express it in precise language. Means sometimes many of you might be experiencing it, that while writing, you, rather than writing one sentence or two sentences on an information, you end up writing a para. That happens means you have a tendency to make a chewing gum out of the answer. You expand it unnecessarily. And when you see it later, like, it's little expanded, the core points, the key points, the most important points are coming towards the end of the answer. Don't do it. It kills the answer. Bring the soul of the answer in the first 2-3 lines itself, so that the examiner is understanding that you are absorbing the topic in totality. You're understanding the topic in totality. Okay. So for that, you need power of language, clarity of expression. I'll see to it that your core components have been prepared thoroughly. Okay. Anyway, till here, we have seen there are 3 topics in the syllabus that we have seen. So ethics and human interface. Second is attitude. Third is aptitude, right? And then after this, we can see emotional intelligence. You know, this term, it gained a lot of popularity, especially after 1970s. Prior to that, we were focusing more on, like, you know, the IQ part or the intellectual quotient. From intellectual quotient, it was observed by scientists across the world that people might be very good in academics in their initial life. They might be getting good degrees, but people who are really successful in life are not necessarily the best students in academics during their school days. Rather, those people who are street smart, who are people smart, who are social smart. And because those people have great communication skills, they have great leadership skills, they can really interact with the larger masses and bring them together towards common goals. So when we say emotional intelligence, what does it mean? So the concept, right? It's utilities, so their utilities, and then the application of emotional intelligence in administration. So what is it and how does it shape your possibilities as an administrator? Okay, and in governance, that is an aspect that is also there in your syllabus. Then here you can see there is this topic which I was talking about, contributions of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and world. I would like you to reflect on this topic and connect it with the very first topic. See this, contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and world, right? And just see the very first chapter where I had said that here this part we can connect it with something else. So here you can see in the very first chapter, in this ethics and human interface, we have this human values, and in this it is written lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers, administrators. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So this component can be clubbed with this fifth component, contributions of moral thinkers and philosophers. Any social reformer can reform only when the person has a very deep sense of the moral quotient, right? So when the moral compass is upright, then only the person can inspire and transform the possibilities of other human being. So the very first chapter, which is dealing with the moral thinkers and philosophers, as you can see over here. Okay, so lessons from lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers, administrators. This topic can be clubbed with this one and taught. Okay, so these are the first 5 topics. Then you can see there is this segment, public services values and ethics in public administration. And then this entire component is associated greatly in depth with the component of public administration. So status and problems, ethical concerns, dilemmas, as you can see, dilemmas in government and private institutions, laws, rules, regulations, and conscience. Now this, many people say it conscience, some say conscience. It depends. Don't get into the pronunciation part much, because India is a diverse country. Our pronunciation is greatly influenced by our mother tongue or the dialects that we speak or the languages that we speak. So my Kashmiri students speak differently. My Bengali students speak differently. My students from Manipur, Mizoram, they speak differently. My students from Kerala and Tamil Nadu, they speak differently. But in the end of the day, the idea and the perception should be one. It should be clear. Okay. So that matters greatly. If you feel that some word you are learning afresh, you can follow it when you're listening to me pronouncing it, or sometimes when you see that I am pronouncing a word differently from what you have been knowing, then you can rectify your pronunciation accordingly. Okay, because like there's always a like scope for improvement, room for improvement. Every student is constantly learning. You and I, we both are students in life. It's just that we are standing on different ladders, isn't it? Okay, then we can see there is this segment associated with The next chapter, that is probity in governance, right? And then there are other segments associated with the term probity, and it's talking about the concept of probity in public service, the philosophical basis of governance and probity. Then there is information sharing, transparency in government, right to information, code of ethics, code of conduct, citizens charter, work culture, quality of service delivery, utilization of public funds, okay, and then challenges of corruption. This topic is there in governance GS paper 2. It is here as well. Similarly, utilization of public funds is something which is like associated with this area, as well as it is associated with governance and social justice paper 2. So you'll find, especially the second last and the last topic in this syllabus, a few of the subcomponents are directly getting connected with GS paper 2 governance. Remember this, my dear children, that UPSC has crafted a very interesting syllabus post 2013. So 2013 onward, the syllabus we are seeing, we cannot say that it is exclusive to this discipline or this subject. There is a constant information sharing that takes place from paper to paper. As a beginner, you cannot do it to begin with. But as you start completing subject after subject after subject, you will start observing that there is an underlying current between the subjects. For example, you're reading in history Gandhi or Vivekananda or Nehru or Patel, okay, or various other thinkers and reformers. And at the same time, you listen about them from a yet fresh perspective in this paper, because here I told you that we'll be talking about moral thinkers and philosophers, social reformers and political leaders from India and world. So the most important ones from Ambedkar to Gandhi, all of them will be discussed here as well, but from a different approach. So you'll realize that there is an underlying current. So history gets shared, governance gets shared, social justice gets shared, social issues gets shared. Along with that, you also see that like few components here and there associated with few other disciplines also gets shared. For example, if they give you a question in case studies related to clinical trials, so the, like let's say the scientific aspect associated with clinical trials is explained in which area? So the scientific aspect of clinical trials, you'll find it is discussed in the science and technology GS paper 3. So that's a technological aspect, and the ethical aspect of it will be dealt here in paper 4. So there is an underlying current and sharing between all of these papers, and that is what all of you will realize over the time period. Now, in this, like let's say another like 15-20 minutes, I have given you a brief idea about the syllabus, so that at least first you become familiar with the terms and terminologies associated with the syllabus, isn't it? I hope you are understanding this bit. So as per the fact you all are gaining a sense of understanding and insight related to this area, I would like to begin today's lecture from some specific components. First and foremost, what is required for this paper? Second, what all aspects you can create? Third, what is this syllabus dealing with and why this syllabus? Rather, if I've discussed this syllabus, why not explain you from this itself? So the question is, why was this syllabus introduced? See, what happened, the just the relevance of this syllabus. I mean, after seeing all these words, the relevance of this syllabus is that, like, you know, between 2000 to 2010, the government of India, it received a lot of complaints, as in the ministry, the home ministry, the department of personnel and training, it received a lot of reports that was constantly talking about the problems in the selected candidates in terms of transparency, in terms of accountability. So, and the bureaucratic ethics also, I would say. So what happened was that UPSC was encouraged by DOPT, Department of Personnel and Training, to craft a syllabus to basically evaluate the basic skills that should be there in a bureaucrat. And this syllabus was considered, you can consider it is a screen which is scanning you through the way these days they are putting a scanner and checking whether you are having a high temperature. If you are having a high temperature, you may be infected by coronavirus. In the similar manner, they put a screen of ethics, integrity, aptitude paper, the GS paper 4, as a screen through which a UPSC aspirant is passing by and proving the examiner that I have the bureaucratic ethics or tendencies. So it's basically, you can consider a screening test of your basic bureaucratic aptitude. Aptitude word I discussed and explained it to you towards the beginning. I hope you remember. Aptitude, inbuilt talent. Attitude, something which you have an inclination towards, right? Okay, we'll get into those terms once again. I'll also give you some definition of core terms, okay, just after some while. Let me first explain this to you. So as we all are understanding this bit, the relevance of this syllabus and why UPSC introduced this syllabus in 2013, this very chapter of ethics, integrity, aptitude. Now, after the syllabus, let me first show you the three words. There's the three words: ethics, integrity, aptitude. Now, the fun fact is, when we are talking about this ethics and integrity, see, our parents and grandparents also have some sort of ethics. Ethos, what are ethics? What are ethos? So they are moral codes of conduct, how a person should behave, what are the do's and don'ts. And they're socially inscribed on you, they are socially implicated on you. So when the society trains you and teaches you what are the do's and don'ts in the larger interest of the community, the family, the society, as well as the individual, blending with the all of the above, okay, then we understand that the individual is having a great sense of ethics. Now, our parents and grandparents have not studied the syllabus or the chapters of ethics and integrity, yet they have it. So can ethics be really taught? That's another profound question. Can I or any person teach you ethics? Or is it an inbuilt quality? That's one concern which was raised before UPSC. To this, when the academicians, a group of academicians were roped in to craft and shape the syllabus, they said that, well, ethics is not something which can be taught at the age of 20 or 22 suddenly. It is something which a child is constantly inculcating from the family, from the very nascent stage as the child is growing up from the animal existence to, or rather the asocial existence to a human existence or a socialized existence. So can you see a baby? A baby is constantly throwing things, throwing a tantrum. You don't listen to a baby and see what the baby can do. Okay, so the baby can bite you, it can throw the toy, it can create a total ruckus in the family, right? If the baby feels like pooping, it'll just poop. It wants to drink something, it will just start crying, right? So the baby is completely egocentric or self-centric. It's completely focused on itself. It is as the baby grows, so initially the parents are entertaining the child, okay, fine, whatever you need, it shall be fulfilled. But as the baby grows, they start telling the baby is supposed kicking the plant, hitting the dog. And they're like, no, 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 you are not supposed to hurt anything. In the society, if you have to survive, you have to love everyone, take care of everyone. You will feel good, the other one will feel good, and feeling good is the basic essence. And through that, parents teach us the value or the ethos of love, compassion, how to behave with each other, right? So the basic training of ethics and integrity, it starts, like you might be seeing nowadays a lot of videos on YouTube or on Facebook or other platforms whereby people show that there's this dog or there's this human baby, any of them, and there are chocolates or something good eatable kept, and the parent has fixed a camera and said that, okay, I'll be just back after a short while, don't eat it, don't eat it. And the child like, okay. And there are two siblings and they have a heap of chocolate, and the other one wants to touch it, and I'm, oh, mama has said not to touch. I was like, yeah. And they're just trying not to look at the chocolate, so they are charmed by it, but they're not looking. The basic ethos of integrity, valuing the word, patience, okay, all this is taught to a child from the very nascent stage, right? So when we are talking about ethics and integrity, the seeds of it is sown from the childhood itself. It is further nurtured by teachers during your school days and college days, and it will be further like shaped and hopefully transformed by me in the forthcoming lectures, whereby you will be seeing that a lot of preconceived notions or the insights are also transforming accordingly. Hope so. And that will be related to a lot of controversial issues, a lot of paradigms which influence us over the time period. Anyway, so when we are talking about the possibility of this ethics, integrity, and aptitude, now the very purpose of introducing this syllabus was that, like, the UPSC wanted the onus of responsibility, which is again a very important component in civil services, to be on the candidate who's getting selected, because you are now shifting the onus of responsibility on the candidate, that if you have the quality of ethics, having the basic ethos intact, your integrity and civil services aptitude, integrity towards like the services, integrity towards the larger society, the concerns of the society, if you have it, then only you should pull through or you shall survive. You will be able to qualify the exam. So what you will, over the time period, when these lectures are carrying forward, you will realize that now the examiner wants that the onus of responsibility of being ethical, moral, is not on the UPSC or on the board for selecting, but it is also on the candidate, that the candidate proved himself to be ethical enough to get selected. Okay, hope you all are understanding this. Okay, so when we are talking about this very possibility of ethics, integrity, aptitude, as you have seen the syllabus, we see that it's a very interestingly crafted syllabus by these intellectuals. In this very first chapter, okay, many people will say that this is an area of philosophy. I'll get back to it, okay, whether this is actually philosophy or it is not just philosophy, but along with philosophy, it is also having components of sociology. Okay, so philosophy and sociology, how the two are blended in together. I'll be just discussing this because this is the first chapter that I have to start with. So I'll be getting into it in greater detail. Okay. Meanwhile, first let me just give a brief overview of the entire syllabus so that you can connect the first with the second with the third, and accordingly. When we are talking about this very component of attitude, okay, again, attitude, as you're seeing the word attitude, this segment is associated with what? Psychology, right? Psychology. My handwriting is not that great, but I hope that it is legible enough. Okay, so psychology. Similarly, when we are seeing aptitude, and then we are seeing foundational values or for civil services. So these foundational values for civil services: integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public services, empathy, tolerance, compassion towards weaker sections. All these components are again blended with two segments, as all of us can see. Okay, the very segment of values for civil services is an area, values for civil services, it is an area associated with public administration. Okay, and when we are saying aptitude, aptitude again is somewhat associated with psychology. So this chapter is a blend of psychology and public administration. Again, when we are talking about this empathy, tolerance, and compassion towards weaker section, this is something connected with social justice, which is there in your GS paper 2. And social justice, the values of social justice is preserved where? So we can see the values of social justice is preserved in, think about it, yeah, the Constitution, the preamble, where it talks about social, economic, and political justice for all, right? So here you can see, when we are talking about the ideas of equality, liberty, secularism, there you can see the very idea of empathy, compassion, tolerance, like hidden within. You'll see a lot of overlapping in the syllabus, and a lot of uh, values and determining factors, like, embedded deep down. Anyway, I'll be elaborating upon that. Now you can see emotional intelligence, this very subsegment, this is associated with psychology, right? If you are not taking down the syllabus, it's perfectly fine, but you can always take down chapter 1 related to this, chapter 2 related to this, so that when I give you the reference list, I'll also share the reading list with you right now, okay, within few minutes. So you'll take down the reading list, and a lot of material I'll share it in soft copy. I'll see to it that it is mailed to you. I'll share it with the administrative head, and I'll see to it that it's mailed to you, or if you have some group or something of that sort where the content is shared, it is shared to you. At least to begin with, you have something to read over the weekend. So some reference material shall be shared by me, and what kind of books or other supplementary things you can purchase and refer, that also I shall be giving. Now let's see. So after the psychology part, we can see moral thinkers of and philosophers of India and world. I've said that this is also associated with the chapter 1. You'd seen the leaders, political leaders, social reformers. Anyway, so this part we can see is associated with two segments. This is associated with philosophy. Again, philosophy comes back over here, and philosophy plus history. Both of these components are blended in this contributions of moral thinkers and philosophers. Then we have this public service, public or civil service values, ethics in public administration, right? All this entire syllabus that you can see. So this is something associated with, clearly associated with public administration. Okay, this is associated with public administration. One segment is associated over here with, I would say, philosophy to a certain extent, and that covering this entire segment. You can see in this probity and governance, there are a lot of topics, and in this public civil services values and ethics in public administration, again, you can see a lot of segments over here. Am I connected to all of you? I hope I am, because I can see all of you are connected, because it showed that somewhat the connection snapped. Okay, so as all of you can see over here, we all can observe that there is this word conscience, right? And this word conscience or conscience, whatever you consider it to be, this is the area of philosophy. Okay, so philosophy plus public administration, majority of this topic, public and civil services values, majority of this topic is associated with public administration. But the moment we talk about conscience, the moment we talk about ethical guidance, okay, the moment we talk about the possibility of dilemmas, okay, here you can see the word dilemmas, right? So dilemmas, ethical guidance, okay, these three terms, they will be associated with philosophy. So this chapter again, sorry, this topic again is associated with philosophy plus public administration. Then you can see this segment of probity in governance. Okay, this and philosophical basis of governance, probity, majority of the topics. Okay, you can clearly say this is entirely associated with public administration, because in public administration also you study the possibilities associated with we can consider the philosophical aspect of governance and probity. So we can give credit to this very topic, okay, associated with public administration. Okay, then we can see the last part, case studies on the above issues. So this is the application, this is the applied part. So now, as we are discussing the segment, we can comfortably say, okay, we can comfortably say that this chapter 1 to 7 is the theoretical aspect, and the chapter 8 is the applied aspect. Chapter 8, that is the case studies. Case studies are not in the air. Many people, like, you know, your seniors or friends will be like, oh, cram some technical terms and start flashing and bombarding those terms in the answer randomly. No, no. An expert is evaluating the copy. So if you're bombarding the incorrect term in an incorrect case study, in a case study where the term is not relevant, the examiner will catch hold of the fact that you're not absorbing the concerns of that case study with due clarity. So for case studies, you first need to understand the theoretical basis, which areas associated with what kind of concern. One thing which I'll tell you, examples, okay? Always remember this fact. This is the very first piece of advice that I'm giving you. Master a lot of examples for this paper. The success of this paper is on understanding the theoretical premises along with reflecting it with the most profound, solid examples. This is one of the most applicable papers. You know, the fun fact was, when the syllabus was introduced, Some people said, oh, this is associated completely with philosophy, ethics, integrity, both the topics related to philosophy. So philosophy professors tried to own it. Public administration professors, they tried to own it and snatch it. No, it's our area. Similarly, the sociologists were claiming, no, a great chunk of it is ours. Similarly, historians were like, no, a lot of it is taught in history. No. Fun fact, this syllabus is unique in itself in the academic history of India, because in none of the universities such a unique paper is taught. This discipline needs a thorough and comprehensive understanding of 5 subjects, not one, 5 subjects. Okay. And the subjects are, as you have observed, what I have been discussing: history, public administration, right? Philosophy. Then we have the segment of sociology and psychology. 5 subjects. You need to have a comprehensive understanding of these 5 subjects, not the entire subjects. The segments of these subjects which is associated with you being a great leader. So how history is inspiring you to be a great leader, how sociology is inspiring you to be a great leader. Similarly, philosophy is providing the moral compass for you to be a great leader. How, like, let us say, the possibilities of public administration have shaped you to be a great leader, and how your psychology is getting polished all along this way. All right. So I hope you're getting a comprehensive understanding of this syllabus and you're understanding what is required, right? So what kind of approach do you need? Okay, let me discuss the approach, because these are basic essence of starting the lecture. If you don't understand this in the forthcoming lectures, you won't be able to connect. And always remember, I'm one person who's not only emotional and passionate for this subject, but also you'll realize that the first lecture is connected to the second to the third to the fourth, and every time I'm helping you recall some or the other key term from the previous lecture. So gain a sense of continuity related to this area. Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to explain you the approach needed for this. Okay, so you can just take down few notes. You can simultaneously, like, you can listen to me and simultaneously take down some keywords. It will help you to build upon in the forthcoming lectures. This is just a background that I'm preparing, the foundation of the preparation. Okay, so when we are talking about the approach, or rather let me say the precautions, I can also use the word precautions for this paper. So approach or precautions for this paper. In this, you can open various segments. First, you need value neutrality in your personality. Value neutrality. Whenever you have to evaluate an answer, whether related to the first 7 chapters or the 8th one, the case study, check whether you have value neutrality or not. Okay, so value neutrality is one thing which is immensely required. What is value neutrality? Okay, so you can just take down from few keywords. So value neutrality means when you are having an open perception. Okay, so when you're open to ideas, so open perception towards various, like, let's say, ideas, philosophies. Okay, for example, value neutrality. Let me give you a silly example. Like, let's say someone is a vegetarian and someone is a non-vegetarian, right? So a person who's vegetarian is like, the person should not be like, oh my God, you're eating non-veg food. You are actually turning your body into a graveyard. No, here you're getting judgmental. You have the right to choose your food, and you have the very choice to exercise your own palate, but you don't have the choice to exercise a judgment about the other person's palate, right? Or a person, like, let's say, who's a non-vegetarian, it's not, should not be like judging you for what you're eating, saying that, oh, you're eating all ghas phus, you grass eating cow. No, you cannot do that to a person. Are you understanding that, right? So when we are talking about value neutrality, you need to understand that you have to respect the differences that other people have, and you need to be like having a keen observation why that difference, how that difference, and how those things emerge, and how you can accept it. So value neutrality is about having a sense of acceptance and understanding empathetically that why, how the person is behaving in that specific manner, to get a wholesome understanding of the specific situation and response the other person holds. You know, in this paper, once you are mastering this paper, trust me, you will be an expert in handling human emotions. You will be an expert in, I would say, also observing what's happening in the society. You'll be understanding why the nuclear deal is required for India. You'll at the same time be understanding, should there be a war like with China or not. You'll be understanding greatly from the perspective the migrants who traveled all the way for hundreds and thousands of kilometers. How ethical was it? Not only the exertion or the physical aspect, not only the, like, let us say, the financial or the economic aspect, but also the psychological aspect, the human aspect, the philosophical aspect. You'll be understanding and connecting with day-to-day life issues more exhaustively. Anyway, the second thing which is required for the approach is you need to have a reasoning mind. Okay, a reasoning mind. So a reasoning mind, what is a reasoning mind? When you're constantly open to question and ask, what I feel, is it correct? Or is there an alternate? What I believe, is that correct? Or can there be an alternate reality? Rather than this can also happen, right? For example, a reasoning mind, LGBTQ relationships, right? Before 2013, it was considered criminal to have such a relationship under Section 377. You could have been pushed behind the bars. Now, the question is that human mind is constantly reasoning about what is right and what is wrong. With the idea of modernity shaping human history over the centuries, especially past 200 years, modernity keeping us in the loop that why we should live anything. Like, let us say, why we should have democracy, why not dictatorship, why we should not have monarchy. India had like monarchy for, like, centuries together. And then our freedom fighters, suddenly they started introducing the idea of democracy. Many, or rather I would say majority of India, had not experienced anything like democracy for hundreds of years. And suddenly, like, leaders across the India were talking about democracy. We were not the French society or the Russian society, which had undergone revolution from the base, from the core. We were a society who was getting introduced to change from the top. The leaders were telling, oh, you need change because of this reason. And the alternate that was existing earlier was that of princely states or kings and queens. And they did not want us to go back to that old order. They wanted a new order. So they had to make the common man reason out what they are offering is better, and why we should go for a democratic society, and why we should fight for Swaraj, right? Again, the issue, the word Swaraj has multiple meanings varying from leader to leader. So for Tilak, what was Swaraj? For Gandhi, what was Swaraj? Anyway, so reasoning mind. Human beings constantly reason out what ought to be there and what ought to be lived. A reasoning mind can only introduce change and progress to human civilization and society. Okay. Anyway, we will be discussing about this aspect again as we are opening the aspects of case studies. See, case studies is something which is dealt towards the end of the syllabus. Once your prelims exams are over, I would be taking this area of case studies very exhaustively through question answer mode. In between, as I'm dealing with these chapters, I'll see to it with through smaller examples, shorter examples, I'm incorporating a bit of it chapter by chapter, so that a wholesome understanding is evolved and developed in each one of you related to how to approach a question related to case studies, but bit by bit, little baby steps to begin with, because today is the first lecture, so I can't overwhelm you and bombard you with a lot of facts and information and this and that. Okay, so just little steps. Okay, then you need to have a balancing mind. Okay, a balancing mind which can reason out, which can balance out that what ought to be there. You know, balancing mind. Through this, I'll say the middle path. A bureaucrat needs to always take the middle path, never to go for extremes, never ever. How to find a solution in between. one community or one group of people are protesting for something. Like this happened in this Aligarh Muslim University uh, just like few months back, like probably January or so. And there was this IPS officer who had studied from JNU. So he said, he just addressed the students, see, it's very easy for me to take legal action against you and do lathi charge for the kind of violence you are doing in the campus. You are breaking the property and all that. But please understand, as a student, it's not very long that I have been a student. I have been a student myself, and I understand the importance of freedom of speech, right to raise voice, but also learn how to raise the voice correctly. And because I have been in your shoes just few years back, I understand how important and critical it is to raise the concerns democratically, which are affecting and inspiring us. So what did this fellow do? He found a middle path. He's not going against the administration, against the bureaucracy, and he's not going against the student. He's harmonizing the two, balancing mind. Finding the middle path is also something which you need to find in your answers. Not like, driving and dragging yourself to extremes and further devastating the answer with right kind of incorrect language or some kind of biased perception. You'll realize it answer by answer. Presently, just remember, these are the precautions that you need to follow in the answers. And then also the continuum approach. Continuum approach. You need to have a continuum approach as well related to this paper. What is a continuum approach? Well, human mind most of the times works in dichotomy. What is dichotomy? Dichotomy, well, it is there in philosophy also. A dichotomous mind, like let us say, one mind is mathematical and scientific in nature, very rational, pragmatic. Okay, this should happen because of this. I have this much fund, so I should do this. So one is the mathematical mind, and the other is the abstract mind, the emotional mind, and how it is handling the possibilities. Okay, so when we are talking about the continual approach, you need to have a balanced mind which is also talking about reasoning and the aspects of reasoning, the points of reasoning. And second, you should also be capable of talking about the points rationally, means blending logic with the abstract. How is it done? I'll teach you answer by answer. Just note it down for the time being that I need to have a continuum approach in my answer. It is again a very critical point. Okay, so these 4 critical points that you need to have. Now, along with this, I will also like to share some basic reading list, reference. So next you can note down is the reference. Reference for paper 4. Reference for paper 4, or rather reference list, let me say reference list for paper 4. In this reference list for paper 4, okay, first and foremost, I can suggest you can purchase the lexicon. This lexicon for this ethics, integrity, and aptitude. This lexicon, Chronicle Publishers takes this lexicon out. It is very lucid. If you have seen Spectrum or something like that for history, which is just point wise, it has discussed. So lexicon will help you to ease the basic concepts, the basic points whenever you're stuck with key terms or terminologies. It will help you to understand it more lucidly, more clearly. Okay. Second thing I can advise you is the book of Ethics, Integrity, and Aptitude. Ethics, Integrity, and Aptitude by G. Subbarao and P.N. Roy Chaudhary. Okay. The second book that you can buy. These 2 recommendations I would like to give you as the core recommendations. Don't overwhelm yourself with a lot of books and all. Few things which I'll be providing, which is supplementary but very core to your preparation. So supplementary feed along with these 2. So I will be giving you some IGNOU material. In IGNOU ethics materials, remember, I'm just sharing this with you today. I won't be repeating it every single day. In this IGNOU ethics material, I'll be sharing the soft copy. Okay. So what you need to do chapter 1, and 2 of block 1. Block 1 is talking about introduction of ethics. Then you can deal with, just note it down quickly, okay? Chapter 3 of block 2. This chapter 3 of block 2, it's dealing with ethical foundations. Ethical foundations. Then I would introduce, sorry, this is there. Okay. Then I will encourage you to deal with chapter 2, 3, and 4 of, don't read entire bit of it, block 3. Okay. And this is associated with applied ethics. Okay. And then you have chapter 1 and 2 of block 4. And this is associated with current ethical debates. Current ethical debates. All right. Okay, fine. So these segments, I'll also advise you to go through few lectures. Why not introduce you to the global scenario? So once, like let us say my lectures are almost through, for case studies, some extra tips which I can give you, which will help you to listen to a Harvard professor. Imagine Harvard University professor. So you can just listen to this person. The website is justiceharvard.org. Okay, in this you'll find a series of lectures related to dilemmas related to murder and all. So you please go through these also. I'll also give you Stanford chalo baad mein de dungi. Second ARC report. What's happening? Is it the connection snapping of students? Okay, the second ARC report. Okay, the second ARC report, in these two segments you need to do RTI. Okay, it is in the first report. And ethics in governance. Ethics in governance. I'll give the soft copy of the fourth report also. First bhi de dungi, okay? So this ethics in governance. Along with this, okay, I think few students are having a snappy connection constantly. I'm adding, and poor kids, thoda hota hai kabhi kabhi connection ka. Okay, then you have this Ministry of Personnel. Okay, so Ministry of Personnel has given this ethics and values. Ethics and values in public governance. Ethics and values in public governance. Okay, then there is this Law Ministry. Law Ministry's report, again, it's probity in governance. Probity in governance. I'll share this also with you people. And there is another report, it's a shorter one. It's on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence for bureaucrats. Okay, so in bureaucracy, short mein kar deti hu. Bureaucrats. Okay, so this is something which you people will also be going through. Some basic stuff to start with. Also, I will encourage you to go through the issues of, like, let us say The Hindu, or if you're not following The Hindu, then you can follow Indian Express, any of the newspapers. Okay, so like let us consider when you are The Hindu, Indian Express, either of it. So the current issues which are going on, start evaluating those issues from ethical point of view. Okay, the theory that we would be teaching, you will start reflecting upon it, that how that is connected, okay, to what we are studying here in theory. So the theory connected with the segment which is like over here. All right, so this is something which I would like to suggest to begin with. This much at least is required to begin with. If there is some more sharing, I'll keep doing it like bit by bit. Okay. Now, so as we are going to deal with this, please understand in terms of ethics, what is required. Okay. So let us start with the first chapter, ethics and human interface. Okay. So after the reading list that I have shared with you, ethics and human interface. Okay. Well, the very first topic of ethics and human interface. Now, as we're going to start with this ethics and human interface, there are some key or core terms that we need to understand, we need to absorb, we need to connect with, right? So, first and foremost, let us understand that for this chapter or the forthcoming chapters, what do you need? Many people say for ethics, for writing the answers of ethics, we need wisdom. So where does the wisdom come from? So wisdom comes from a contemplative mind, a thinking mind, right? So a contemplative mind. How do you contemplate? When you analyze. A mind that's constantly analyzing what's right, how is it right, how to deal with it. How do you analyze? You analyze on the basis of what? Knowledge. Knowledge that you gain. And from where does knowledge come? So knowledge comes from facts. You know, once, like I've also taught at university level. So my ex-professor, senior, who was also the head of Department of India and South Asia Studies, Dr. Purushottam Agarwal, he was ex-UPSC member. So sir had once said, I'd said that sometimes as on guest basis, I was also teaching at I was invited by Jamia over here, and I was also invited by University of Kashmir. So I said that sir, students are always reluctant by saying that they are unable to cram so much for UPSC exam. They're like, ma'am, we have to memorize so much of constitution and this and that. We are constantly cramming history. We are constantly cramming this, cramming that. We are overwhelmed by facts. UPSC means so much of cramming. He was like, just ask them one thing. How are they able to understand what you are talking and what they are talking or how they are talking to their friends? It's just by one thing. They understand language. They started with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then they started understanding what is the difference between cat, bat, and rat. So initially they had to memorize, cram alphabets, then words, spellings, their meanings, grammar. Bit by bit that started adding up, right? And that created the domain of facts. The pool of facts created knowledge. With knowledge, what happened? You started analyzing. Someone said, put. And you're like, okay, put, keep. I'm keeping it, put. And the other person said, shoot. So you understood, no, there was a difference in pronunciation, push, shoot, and you understood that there's a difference in meaning. The contemplative mindset, oh, put and shoot are different. And then further, as you started thinking of more and more words, you started noticing some interesting patterns. Any word having dis has a negative meaning, dismissal, discourage, right? So you started, your contemplative mind started connecting the words with the root words and all, right? So what all of us can notice is that whatever we are gaining is having a track. It is not only related to my paper, but all the 4 papers. So first you need what? A pool of facts. From facts, you build your knowledge. From knowledge, you build analysis. And from analysis, you gain wisdom. And this wisdom is needed for this paper, right? Okay. So always remember, for this, what you need when you have started preparing for this area, you need a 3-way process or 3 steps process. Let me say 3 steps process. And what are the 3 steps process? So how do you absorb facts? So the books, the reference material that we provide you, yes, definitely. So first and foremost, you need an observant mind. So observe your environment. Environment can be associated with your academic environment, your social environment, your political environment. So just observe everything that is happening in and around you. Then go for introspection. So that is contemplation, that is analysis, right? Gaining the very possibility of contemplating. So introspection. And then comes the application part. And here you solve the answers or the case studies. So observe, introspect, and application. You know what? Philosophy. It is also referred as Darshan Shastra. Okay. Darshan Shastra. See, Darshan Shastra. Shastra means a science, a systematic order of doing something. And Darshan means observing. See, right? So you have to first do the Darshan, observe. After doing the darshan, you need to perform what? The dhyan or the introspection. And after the dhyan, application, that is the karma part. So darshan, dhyan, and karma. The combination of the three helps you to unfold ethics, integrity, and aptitude, or more importantly, to begin with this very chapter. If you see, Gandhi is talking about the same, right? He's observing what's happening around him, then introspecting, and then changing. Like you can observe it from multiple chapters also. Like let us say, let me give you the example of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. We'll be discussing about him later also. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy, what did he do? He observed. What did he observe? He observed the sati performed on his sister-in-law. He was so hurt and intrigued. He loved her like his bhabhi as his mother. Okay. So sister-in-law, elder sister-in-law, as his brother died, she was forced to commit sati. So this thing, what did it do? It created what? Empathy in him. Empathy. Pathos. Pathos means pain. Empathy. When you feel the pain of the other person as your own. Okay. So the person experienced pain or empathy. Along with that, always remember, whenever you experience this empathy, what should happen after that? You also need some intellectual courage to unfold it. Then only you become a great leader. Some intellectual courage. That what you felt, you could put it in action to bring about change. That is how you become a great leader. Right? So observe, then contemplate or introspect, and then apply. Right? Okay. Similarly, let me give you some more example. Gandhiji. Okay. So Gandhi. What happened with Gandhi? So he experienced apartheid, right? Apartheid in South Africa. So when he experienced apartheid, then he started contemplating. And in the process of contemplation, he started thinking that should the means matter to achieve my end? How important is means to achieve my end, the change that I want? I want apartheid or racism or any kind of exploitation, subjugation of man by other man to end. So is the end means here result. Okay. So is the end or the result important for me? Or is the means or the way, the step that we follow is also important for me? When he started contemplating, what do we see? What did Gandhi do? So he said, no, means are as important as the end. If the means fail, then the ends also fail. And remember, that was the reason that when you will read about non-cooperation movement, it was at its peak. It felt that it will be a thumping success. It was 1 year, almost 1 year. And then Chauri Chaura happened. And he withdrew the movement. Many people criticized, many leaders criticized that a social movement of that scale, a political movement of that scale was unprecedented in the Indian history in terms of the Britishers with the means of non-violence. Gandhi said, no, the means are equally important. So the means were what? Non-violence. We could see that, right? And when non-violence, and definitely that was based on truth. So truth and non-violence need to be preserved, right? So again, we could see that this was shaping his values and action. All of us can see that. Values and action was getting shaped by it. Isn't it? Right? So I hope you're understanding that how in this paper you need to understand the very possibility of these three aspects, that is darshan, dhyan and karma, okay, or observe, introspect and apply to attain wisdom, bureaucratic wisdom, wisdom in civil services, also as a human being, because the better human being you are, the better possibilities you open for yourself and the society. Anyway, so you can see this very possibility lingering on from paper to paper. For example, if I'm saying in polity you just observe preamble. Preamble, as I had discussed, it's talking about what? The preamble itself is called Code of Ethics of the Constitution. So here the word ethics comes, right? So Code of Ethics. So the Code of Ethics of the Constitution. Similarly, you can also see when we say ethics, what is ethics? I said the moral code of conduct or set of rules and regulations. So here, who needs to follow this code of ethics, which is also referred as preamble, Code of Ethics of Constitution? You can note it down. You can use it in your answer. So the preamble is also referred to as Code of Ethics of the Constitution. So this ethos or set of ethos or ethics is for whom? For the government to follow. Are you understanding that? The government is supposed to follow the Code of Ethics. All right. So as we are understanding this, again, similarly, DPSPs, Directive Principle for State Policy, when you're studying about it. So the DPSP is what? The soul or the conscience of the Constitution. So the soul or the conscience of the Constitution will also provide ethos of do's and don'ts for the leaders, the bureaucrats, or rather the three segments which are governing and shaping the possibilities for this country. Okay. Similarly, the fundamental rights, and also I'll incorporate the fundamental duties. So the fundamental rights and duties, they both impose the do's and don'ts for the government, the authorities, the bodies, as well as the citizens. So the do's and don'ts are also what? The codes of conduct. The do's and don'ts, how you should behave, why you should behave, what you should be provided, where your nose comes in between the line of other. So it should, your freedom should be curtailed there. Your domain of exercising your freedom should be curtailed there, contained there. Okay. So you're protesting, fine. But if you're breaking public property, hurting someone else, no, there your freedom ends. So the blending between the two, who is doing that? The ethos. And where are these ethos prescribed? To begin with, in the Constitution, or the, we can say, the beginning from the preamble and further in all the other articles. Again, with respect to science and technology, how do we observe this ethics and human interface? In science and technology, you can see there are a lot of concerns. Should we have a 3-parent baby? Should we go for euthanasia? Suppose a person is crippling and dying. Like, let us consider a person has met an accident and the person is burnt 95%. 95% the body is burnt. And other family members have somehow survived that accident. And like a bit of bruises here and there, a bit of first aid, and they are fine. And they are seeing that this person is dying and wincing of pain. And suppose they ask, like the wife asks or the mother asks, how much time does my child have or my husband have? And the doctor says, maximum 5 to 6 hours of pain. And then they are like, so doctor, why is the person suffering? Can't you put an end to this pain? Now, euthanasia, here, she's asking for it. The patient is asking for it. All the other family members are approving of it. So should euthanasia be legalized in such situation? Or the right to life, you're not allowed to take right to life. So ethically, is it possible? Okay. In personal domain, morally, it may be possible. But ethically means from the social perspective, from the social domain, is it possible? Now, here I raise two terms, moral and ethical. They sound similar. In many dictionaries, you'll see that they are synonymously used. But are they synonyms? No. There is a hairline difference. There are many such terms which have a hairline difference. You need to be very precise and clear about that as well. I'll be discussing that. Okay. So, euthanasia, or like, let us say I can give you genetic engineering, right? Cloning. So are these issues only issues of science and technology, or are they also having ethical concerns in it? So then you realize that ethics is a subject which is interdisciplinary. It is related to polity, it is related to governance. I gave you examples from there. It is related to history. It has shaped human history. It is associated with science and technology. So multiple such areas that you can find. Okay. So uh, similarly, if I'm talking about ethics, why not also give you the segment of integrity? If I ask, do you have a sense of integrity in you? How many of you have a sense of integrity? Okay. How many of you exercise integrity? Or how many of you don't have integrity? I believe majority of you, I wish all of you are physically present, but because of this crisis, we are like, interacting through this digital platform. I hope I have been clear so far and you people have been able to connect emotionally with what I'm talking. And that because that empathetic connect is very much required in such lectures. So if I would have asked in the class, I believe majority of you would have said that, yes, I hold a high sense of integrity of doing the right things, not hurting others. Okay. But then I'll be like, have you always exercised integrity in your life? Always? Then maybe some people might have been in a dilemma. It's like in past 3-4 years, you're like, yeah. As a child, I cannot vouch for it, but in 3-4 years, I've been having quite a high sense of integrity. I'll be like, okay. Then I'll ask that, have you exercised any kind of, like, let us consider, uh, have you gone for a bit of ragging or bullying your junior? So ragging is illegal. But if you have informally ragged your junior, oi, come here. So let's do some informal interaction. So sing for me or dance for me or just show me how a dog barks. Okay. Or just like walk like a cat and bark like a dog, something like that. We become very creative when we interacting with juniors. But that interaction, if it is not hurtful, shameful, harmful, it also creates a lot of lifetime bondings and informal interaction. But still, the thing is, did you observe when you signed the admission form in your college? There's one more thing, that you'll not indulge in any kind of nefarious activities, or you'll not indulge in any kind of activity which is considered illegal in the premises, and ragging is illegal. Not beating your younger sibling or being abusive to the younger sibling. But every once in a while, we have a tendency to shout at the younger sibling, or the younger sibling snatching our things and we go behind and punch, something like that, right? So when we talk about this issue of integrity, it's a very interesting statement, integrity. So bunking classes, ragging, all this is associated with the core term of integrity, which again has been, like, asked by UPSC. We'll be taking up those questions. Anyway, so what you need for this is, you need a blending of all these subjects and you need to work it out. So let me give you some notes. You can just take down few components and I'll start with that and then draw a diagram for you. Okay. Or rather, let me first draw the diagram and then give you those segments. So you can just take down a diagram. Okay. So when I'm talking about ethics, how our ethos are formed. Okay. So first it starts from belief. You can first take down the diagram, then I'll explain. Belief. What is a belief? Belief is what? It is the ideas we hold to be true. Belief is what? It is a cognition. Cognitions means what we are acknowledging, seeing, believing. Okay. So ideas that we hold to be true. Sahi bhi ho sakta hai, galat bhi ho sakta hai. It can be true, it can be false. For example, suppose some Indian is thinking that a Pakistani is a bad person. That's a belief. It is not necessarily based on logic or reasoning. The person has been always listening to it in TV, and because the person has been seeing it in TV constantly, Pakistan did this, Pakistan did that, they are doing this to their women, this is how they are behaving. So you're constantly like, your belief system is like, Pakistanis are bad. But suppose you meet a Pakistani in an international summit. You become friends and you start interacting with his family, cousins. The fellow is having a wedding in the family, invites you over, you go, you find the society is safe, you go to the markets, you roam around, you interact with other people, you're like, wow. So your belief system changes. So belief is somewhat flexible in nature, okay? Belief should never be rigid. If you're rigid, you're closed. Okay, just a short revisit. If you remember this diagram which I had drawn, kahan gaya? Have I deleted it? No, it seems I have erased it. Okay, yeah, this one, approach and precautions. So balancing mind, remember this, reasoning mind, right? So if value neutrality, right? So belief can change only when you're value neutral, when you have a reasoning mind, when you have a balancing mind. Okay, remember, we'll be looking towards this approach every time. So that's why I said that we'll be getting back to the topic every once in a while. We'll be getting back to the topic. Okay, now getting back. So let's see where we were. So when we are talking about belief, as I said, belief is what? It is cognitions. Okay, cognitions or ideas that we hold to be true. There are two types of beliefs. One is a strong belief, and there can be some peripheral beliefs also. Peripheral. So peripheral beliefs. Peripheral means side ka belief. Okay. For example, my belief is that, like let's say chocolate ice cream is the best ice cream. That's not a very important belief. So that's a peripheral belief. Someday someone treats me on blackcurrant ice cream, I eat and I'm like, oh my God, this was mind blowing. This is the best ice cream, what I have had so far. Then I go to some natural ice cream parlor and then they give me some watermelon ice cream. And oh God, fruits ka ice cream, man, too tasty, too good. Then someday someone treats me on jamun ice cream. You're like, oh, ma'am loves ice cream. Don't make that presumption. I avoid ice cream like anything. Sore throat issue, everything is throat only, okay? But just giving an example so that you can visualize and connect. Food makes everyone imagine faster. That's why an example of food, okay? So peripheral beliefs are like, just casual, sidelined issues which are not so important, but they do exist. So peripheral belief. And then there are strong beliefs. Strong beliefs lead to the formation of values. Okay, strong beliefs lead to the formation of values. So what is values? Values is basically cognitions or beliefs plus emotions. आपके जज्बात जुड़ जाते हैं. You're just emotional about the fact. Okay, this is the thing, this is how it should happen. That leads to the formation of values. So values are what? Values are, like, let us say, things that are important for us. Things that are important for us. Okay? Yeah. Then another segment, that is, then these values, the values that we hold very true to our heart, that leads to the formation of attitudes. Attitudes. Okay? What is attitude? As I have explained you, our attitude towards a situation, attitude towards a person, attitude towards a thing. Attitude means inclination. Okay? Suppose a child is going with his father every year to the Republic Day. And what do we see in the Republic Day parade? We see that the army tanks are going. In National Valor, National Pride, we are holding different marches. NCC cadets are marching. So year after year, the child is seeing the Republic Day parade of India. Maybe through TV or maybe coming to Delhi and from the Red Fort. So over the time period, the child will develop an attitude of respect towards army, collared jobs. Okay, the child will aspire to become maybe an army officer, or the child will develop a sense of patriotism. Okay, so attitude. What is attitude? How we approach situations, or how we should act. Attitude determines this, how we should act, how we are approaching a situation, or how we should act. So attitude is what? It is getting a combination of cognition, you can say cognition, oh my wait, cognition plus emotions. So first your belief system comes, then your emotions come for the belief system, and then what gets added? Behavior, right? Your behavior towards that, and how you would be behaving in that situation. So it's cognitions, emotions plus behavior which is leading to your attitude. Because in attitude, you'll be exhibiting your behavior. You're liking something, you're disliking something, okay? Then what gets created because of this? This leads to the formation of human behavior. And when I'm saying human behavior, so human behavior determines how we really act. There's a difference between attitude and human behavior. See, what is it? Let me explain that to you. Suppose your belief is that Dhoni is the best player. I'm just saying. It may be something else. You may not like cricket. You may like cricket, whatever. Just for the time being, an example. Suppose you believe Dhoni is the best cricketer. And cricket, he's the god of cricket. He's like, wow. It can be Sachin. It can be anyone. Okay. So you're like, your belief is he's good. Okay. So over the time period, what happens is you start prioritizing cricket like anything. So it becomes your passion. You start like, observing the moves, the drives, this and that. Your attitude is that if there is a cricket match coming, you'll definitely watch. Like, let us say there is one day international and India is about to play. So what will be your attitude towards it? Your attitude will be that you will watch the match. If a one day international is about to come today at 10 p.m., you will watch the match, right? Now let me put a clause in it. Infuse a clause. And the clause is tomorrow is your UPSC mains exam. The first paper, GS paper 1, let us say. I'm not starting with compulsory paper English or Malayalam or whatever. So the first paper is there. Now, will you watch the match? You'll be like, well, maybe the final last over and I'll just follow the score once in a while, but I won't afford to watch the match. Can you understand this? So when I'm saying attitude is not always leading to behavior. It will influence behavior, but behavior is finally how you act. The action part is influenced by all of it, belief, values, attitudes, but human behavior will be influenced and shaped by it, but it can be also having its own distinct features. So you may end up not watching the match and preparing for the exam, just seeing the news feed or maybe seeing the last result, what finally happened. Human behavior, how we really act. Okay. And then how you really act, the feedback of how you really act leads to the formation of your belief system over the time period. And that is how year after year, experience after experience, situation after situation, our belief system starts getting framed. I hope all of you are understanding this bit. Okay. All right. So when you're understanding this, let me give you some definition. Likhilo, that will be better. Okay. Just write down what is attitude. Just note it down. Okay. Just a brief definition I'll give you. Attitude is an expression. Attitude is an expression of favor or disfavor, towards a person, place, object, or event. It is formed from the person's past and present environment. From the person's past and present environment. Okay? You can also note down behavior. Okay? So, behavior. What is behavior? Behavior is the response, because right now you're understanding what I'm explaining. What is attitude and what is behavior? And you are able to distinguish between the two. What is the difference between the two? But what if, my apprehension is, what if you are unable to absorb it later? Because when you open your copy, you're just seeing a diagram and you're been unable to distinguish between the two. So that's why I'm giving you the definition, because belief and value, I have just explained it in the box itself, but attitude and behavior needs some explanation. Okay, so you can just write down behavior refers to the response, that we make towards our environment due to different stimuli, due to different stimuli, due to different stimuli, due to different stimuli. You can also add, it is influenced by multiple factors, by multiple factors. Okay, so the multiple factors you can write on: culture, attitudes, emotions, values, cultures, attitudes, emotions, values, ethics, authority. Authority changes, your behavior changes. So ethics, authority, persuasion, coercion, even genetics. So, and genetics. Genetics plays a very crucial role, especially in emotional intelligence. I'll be discussing this also. So, and genetics. Okay. So I hope all of you are able to understand this diagram, right? Hope you are understanding this diagram. So from here, let us start with what is ethics and what is morals. Ethics and morals. Okay. So when we are talking about ethics and morals, okay, shall I start? I hope all of you have noted down this attitude and behavior. Okay. So ethics. Ethics, it is coming from the Greek word ethos. Okay. Greek word ethos. Okay. And when we are talking about it, the Greek word ethos, it is talking about customs. What are customs? Customs are basically habits of society. Okay. Habits of a society. Whereas when we are talking about morals, morals comes from the Latin word moralis. Okay. And this refers to the character of an individual. Character of an individual. Okay. So ethics and morals. So morals is more associated with your internal aspect, your internal personality, who you are as a human being from within. Ethics is what? It is imposed from above. The society is coming on you. The society is influencing your behavior. So moral is how you behave when no one is watching you. Ethics is how the society has influenced you and you've learned it to behave with the external world. So moral is more about your internal compass, though definitely morals are shaped by ethics also, because initially a child is not born with morals. It is the social ethics, the parental ethics that is shaping your morals, that how you turn out to be. But in the same family, two brothers, two sisters, two siblings, they turn out to be different, isn't it? They turn out to be different, whereby one sibling may have a different behavior from that of the other, despite same parenting, same kind of books, same kind of schools, right? So how does that happen? Because the morals of an individual may differ, okay, despite the same kind of parenting. So ethics and morals, Ethics is associated with a set of customs, code of conduct, which is imposed by the society. Moral is your inner character. Okay, I'll be discussing that as well. Okay, now, so you can, some common features you can understand is that both are standards of, right and wrong. This is a common fact, common feature of both. Both are standards of right and wrong. Okay. But when we are talking about ethics, always remember, ethics is talking about standards of right and wrong of a society. Remember this, of a society. What is right and wrong from societal perspective? Whereas when I'm talking about morals, okay, when I speak about morals, morals are standards of right and wrong from the perspective of whom? From the perspective of an individual. Okay, right and wrong from the perspective of an individual. I hope all of you can see that, right? So, ethics and morals. So, like, let us say, if a person is unethical, what happens to the person? If you are unethical individual, then what happens? There is an informal punishment by the society. Informal punishment means the society, for example, it can ostracize you, okay, or boycott you. For example, like, let us say a boy in the classroom is constantly using slangs, okay, uttering a lot of slangs. So what will happen if he is constantly using slangs? So the child will be given some punishment to begin with. And the child says, oh, sorry, ma'am, by mistake I said. She'll be like, okay, fine. For one full day, no one will talk to this boy. Ostracizing. Okay. So, or not talking, anything of that sort. So, if you are exhibiting any kind of unethical behavior, okay, it means you're not following the code of conduct which is imposed upon you by the society can levy some informal punishment. But if you are against morals or immoral, okay, so if you're against morals, what will happen? It will lead to a breeding sense of guilt. So you should respect your parents and you shout it back at them. You will feel guilty deep down in your heart. When you're calm, you're like, oh, I should not have shouted at them. Even if they were talking about something wrong, I should have patiently, calmly talked. If I was not in the right frame of mind, how to talk back, I should have just remained quiet, said, I'll talk to you in a short while. I'm not in the fit state to talk, but I'll definitely talk on this. Okay. Though at your age, sometimes parents are like, oh, you will decide now when to talk. Anyway, so the thing is guilt. If you are not following the morals, you'll have guilt. You will experience crisis of conscience. You may experience, remember these words, okay? Because the difference should be understood by you. What if it is asked? Okay. You may experience dissonance. You will experience moral crisis. You may also experience anxiety. So you can see at psychological level, so many things are happening. If you are not habituated of doing that act and still you performed it out of pressure, there is a possibility that you may also experience depression. You may be depressed. Oh my God, what did I do? I shouldn't have done that. Okay. So if the act is not habitual, आदत नहीं है parents को shout back करने का, या something which you have done, which you have not ever done. Okay. So remember, when you against morals, there are no social sanctions. They are more of personal crisis. There is a crisis of personality. So no social sanctions. There are problems which are associated with your own psychology. Okay. So always remember that, okay, that man here, I mean to say man and woman both. I'm talking about it as a race. Okay. Rather, let me put human. Okay. A human being is a biological entity. Okay. It is a biological entity when it is born. Okay. More like an animal you can consider. But as the child grows, as the human grows, what happens? The child develops morals. And as the child develops morals, okay, over the time period, okay, remember, it's not necessary that all your morals are in line with the society. Okay, I'll give you an example. Remember, probably note it down. This is an important point. All morals are not always in line with, or morals are not always in line with ethics of the society. इसको social ethos भी कह सकते, we can say social ethos. So all morals are not always in line with the ethics of the society. Okay, just remember this. Okay, maybe I should give you an example so that you remember. For example, like let us say just 100 years back. Okay, 100 years back, we had the practice of sati. I gave you the example. Or even now, in many societies, we see the practice of child marriage, right? In the past, we have seen slavery. We have seen the practice of dowry, which have been accepted as social ethos. But there have been individuals whose moral conscience did not permit it. And because their moral conscience didn't permit, what did they do? They opposed. They were like, no, we are not going to follow this possibility. We are just not going to let this possibility prevail in my family or influence my life. When those people rebelled, when they raised their voice with a reasoning mind, with a balanced mind, they shaped human history. They shaped possibility for you and I. Okay, earlier it was discouraged that women should not teach, but Jyotiba Phule and Savitri Bai Phule, when they propagated education for women, the possibilities for millions of women in India transformed, including I, who is helping you with this subject, and many students who are females and who are sitting and taking down the notes or they are studying. So always remember that morals are not always in consonance with the ethics. They may differ. Okay, I hope I'm being clear. So, but again, are they completely different? No. See what is the correlation, rather the correlation. When we are talking about the correlationship between ethics and morality, then remember, ethics is also referred as social morality. Ethics is referred as social morality. Okay, whereas morals are also referred as individual ethics. Okay, see how deeply intertwined. So ethics is also referred as social morality. So the entire group of people, the entire community, okay, how all of them are coming together and exhibiting a common morality about right and wrong, what ought to be done and what not ought to be done. That entire composite whole frames ethics. So ethics is nothing but social morality. How a given society feels that something is a moral behavior or immoral. Let me give you an example. You might be knowing the very possibility of abortion. Once I was teaching to one of the Hindi medium batches in Delhi, in Mukherjee Nagar. Yes, I'm a bilingual teacher. I can teach flawlessly in Hindi as well. So what happened that I was talking about this possibility. I was like, so I was talking about the idea of modernity. What do you understand by modernity? I remember one of the students, he probably belongs to rural background and his idea of modernity was mere westernization. So it's like, okay, so is westernization modernization? I believe many of you might not be very clear about this perception or this idea. So let us understand that when we are talking about this very segment, ethics and morality, what happens is that a person, an individual who is behaving in a specific manner, and the person is like, let us say, saying that the person is aspiring to be ethical or moral, how that thing transforms into the larger society. Okay, so we can just consider that in terms of ethics and morality, we observe once in a while that people, they exhibit two different patterns. Okay, So an individual who was asked, as I had shared with you people about that Hindi medium student, he said that, ma'am, according to me, Western society is very modern because there people can have children even before marriage, and sometimes children participate in parents' marriage. I was like, is it because according to your, they are too modern? They're like, yeah, ma'am, their marriage is not compulsory to have children. I was like, why? Like, they are very liberal. They find that it's perfectly fine to have children even before marriage. It's like, is it considered as a virtuous act in their society? It's like, ma'am, I've not lived there. Everyone like giggled in the class. I was like, yes, because you're not aware of the society. See, in most of the Western countries, Catholicism and the Catholic Church and its order is very much stringent. So the ethos, the religious ethos, also influences the social ethos, and later also influences the laws. Remember, laws have multiple sources. Laws come from scientific temperament, rationality, modernity, the constitution of the country. They also influence the laws. Also, customs, culture, and history, they also shape laws. So what happened was that I said that, see, because Christianity and even Islam respects the idea of every life, and they believe that the moment the child is in the womb of the mother, the child has life. And because every life is gift of God, we don't have any right to take away that life. Henceforth, abortion is considered as a sin, and that very idea of sin got connected and it got manipulated into a law. So there are a lot of anti-abortion laws, so that a person does not abort the child. That's why there is teenage pregnancy, and trust me, teenage pregnancy is not entertained. Okay, I think Vishnu Kumar Ashok's connection is constantly snapping. Vishnu Ashok, and there are 3 4 students whose connection keeps snapping. I understand the technological barriers are there. Okay. So what happens is that because of this very segment of anti-abortion laws, we see that in West, people do not go for the possibility of abortion, even teenage pregnancy, which parents don't like. They don't entertain. Sometimes the child herself is studying, okay, and she is like suddenly in a dilemma. How will I support the child? The state comes in action. The state gives medical facility, sometimes gives food coupons, also facilitates education for the child in state sponsored educational institutions. So what you see is that the very idea of abortion is considered as illegal, and those societies, they entertain the idea that if you're pregnant, you have to give birth to the child. When modern science proved that the baby or the fetus does not have life for initial few weeks, that shaped the Indian law. Because in India, we saw that, oh, this poor guy Vishnu, his connection is constantly snapping. I'm adding him again. Okay. So when we see that the very idea is constantly getting shaped, okay, and it's shaping also in the form of laws. So in India, we see that the anti-abortion laws are not stringent, whereby the first few weeks, or rather to be specific, almost 3.5 to 4 months, a person can get the child aborted. So here there is a relief for women who are raped, molested, there is some unwanted teenage pregnancy, or some kind of pregnancy whereby a woman is suffering from some disease and she cannot conceive a child, but by mistake she has conceived the child, and because of overbleeding she may die. Or, like, let us say this happened in the Smita Halpanwar case in Ireland, where the lady, she was a woman of Indian origin but a citizen of Ireland. She had conceived the baby, and the baby had a cyst, and it was a cancerous cyst. Okay, so the doctors said that if the baby is not aborted, the cyst will burst and the woman will also die, the mother will also die. So the only scope of saving the life of Smita is getting rid of the baby. But the laws were so stringent that like, you know, she got down on the streets on the 6th, 7th, 8th month of pregnancy. She kept protesting, she kept asking, I have a right to live, I want to get this child aborted. But no one paid heed. And one final day, in the 8th month of her pregnancy, the, like, you know, she died because the cyst had burst open, and the mother and the baby had to die, but along with the baby the mother also died. So please understand, when we are talking about the possibility of ethics
And when we are talking about the domain of morality, they both are shaping each other constantly. And when we are talking about ethics as social morality, so this morality is constantly getting shaped. First, one individual believes what is right. That right is accepted by more number of individuals. When that more number of individuals forms a community, and a whole community believes what is right and what is wrong, that idea leads to the formation of social morality. And that social morality shapes what? Ethics. I hope you're understanding that, right? And what is morals? Morals are individual ethics which may or may not be established as social ethics. Okay? Right? For example, during Raja Ram Mohan Roy's time, sati was a social ethics, but it was not his individual ethics. And that's how he protested against it. I hope all of you are understanding this bit, right? So as I'm about to wrap up this session, okay, probably I can just give you the definition of ethics and then continue with this lecture in the next session that will be on Monday, because I believe on Saturday and Sunday you have polity lectures or something like that. Yeah. So ethics, just take down the definition. You can write down: ethics in practice are the standard on the basis of which one can decide what is right and what is wrong. What is right and what is wrong. Okay, so what is right and what is wrong. They what is right and what is wrong. They prescribe what is or is not. They prescribe what is or what is not, okay, considered appropriate behavior in living one's life. Okay, so basically it is providing an individual an external source. Okay, it is provided to, ethics is provided to an individual from an external source. It can be society, it can be religion, it can be your workplace, it can be multiple sources. Okay, so today I extended the lecture by 10 minutes. I was realizing that I'm up by 10 minutes because we logged in and we started the lesson 10 minutes late. Today was the first session and there was, like, you know, some issue related to the technical glitch. So I thought that why not just explain the basics today and then like establish the roots and after that carry forward. I was unable to see your chat because of you know, constantly writing and using the screen. So when I'm sharing the screen, I'm using this tablet also, and you can see that there's nothing on the tablet. I write it, and that's why the handwriting also goes a bit haywire. Just sharing these little tidbits so that you understand like how things are operating. So I just write it. I can write it without like seeing down sometimes. Okay, so and that's why the handwriting is not so much up to mark. So I hope that's working for you. And also I'm able to read your chat. So one piece of request which I'll make, so and that's an earnest request, is that all of you please be on time, like at 10:30 itself. Log in on Monday at 10:30 so that we don't delay the process. In fact, I'll see to it that I log in at 10:25, 28 so that everyone has logged in, and at 10:30 sharp I'm able to start the lecture. So in 2 minutes, whoever logged in today 15-20 minutes late, all those students are in time, because let us respect the ethics of discipline, the value of discipline. Okay, and because a bureaucrat needs to be disciplined, so the basic mannerisms, they start from this aspect as well, that is from the classroom as well. So from the classroom we start the basic training which is required for a civil servant. I also sit for the mock interview panels at 3 places. So one thing which and I'm the youngest in the panel, everyone else is almost 1.5 times or double my age, or closer to my parents' age or even senior. So what I have realized is that um, what you learn in the classroom program for 365 days, when you're appearing for the interview, you are suddenly not a different human being. What you have practiced every single day for 365 days, that day also subconsciously you end up behaving like one. So here I would like to say that I would just inform this thing to all of you that over here, all of you people who have logged in and who are over here, try to imbibe the virtuousness of a civil servant in your speech, in the choice of words that you use, the way you are present, the way you are like attending the session, the kind of focus you are exhibiting. Trust me, it will be amazing for you, because you'll see yourself transforming lecture after lecture, month by month, and you'll see that your behavior, your mannerism, your characteristics are getting closer to that of a civil servant. The day you'll appear for the interview, the examiner or the board will just have to put a stamp, yes, approved, this person is thoroughly exhibiting the behavior and the mannerism of a bureaucrat. Remember, in interview, ethics paper and essay and optional, these are the 4 places where the marks variation can be by 40 to 50 marks. Not unlike GS paper. In GS paper 1, 2, 3, the variation may not be immense. But in paper 4, what kind of a person you are gets exhibited by the kind of answers you write. In the essay component also, the same thing happens. A child can get 100, 110, 120. At the same time, you can get 160. On a high side, 167, 169 has also been achieved by students. And the another segment is interview. In interview, a student may get 148. Like, Roman Seni, he was all India under 20, and still he had got pathetic marks in interview. It was less than 150. But because of his mains marks, he was all India under 20. If he would have got even 170 or 80, which is averagely good marks, he would have been all India topper. So interview also shapes your possibility. Tina Darby could become an IAS officer and all India topper because she had brilliant thumping marks in the interview. She had 210. So please understand that interviews, you can get 140 also, you can get 200 also, 210 also, 190 also. Variation is tremendous, and it starts from here, how we are thinking and observing. You can come up with your examples. Okay, so that is there. And I'll take up your queries towards the end of the session, because when I'm teaching, what happens is that as I told you, screen sharing takes place. So I'm writing, I'm explaining, I'm going ahead with all of it. So you can note down your queries in the panel of your lecture sheet, and once it is over, I can take the questions towards the end. As I can see, ma'am, when MTPA was 1971, it's okay, most liberalized law, okay, that's come to force, okay, everyone is understanding this, okay, okay. Any other question? Okay, so I hope everything is understood till now. All right, so I hope that this was a fine session, a fruitful one, and to begin with, you started enjoying this subject. So today I did not delve in the domain of question paper. Today I discussed the syllabus, I discussed the reference list, I discussed the syllabus and reference list quite thoroughly. I discussed some basic concepts, and we stepped into the first chapter, ethics, integrity and aptitude, first chapter, that is ethics and human interface. I'll continue with this chapter on Monday. So wish you a great day ahead and a great weekend ahead. Study well, enjoy your day, and thank you. Bye.